Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you are in the globe. Welcome back to tip sharing sessions by me, Jefferson Howe, wherein I'm a principal solution architect for Okta. In this session, I'm going to showcase to you how you can certify inactive users within an application through Okta. So I keep hearing this requirement a lot from customers wherein they're asking, hey, Jeff, how can we actually determine which users are active in an application? And basically, if there are certain users within an application that are inactive, I want to review their access and maybe revoke them later on, such that I can make sure that every license that I'm spending for those users are fully utilized and maximized rather than them being shelfware. So this is the discussion I'm going to showcase in this session. And shout out as well to IMSE blog, where it's being run by my colleagues, by Danny, David Edwards, Mark Smith, Reza, and the whole Okta team, wherein we're actually trying to contribute as many identity and access management topics and solutions that you can do either with Okta, with other providers that we integrate with, and we're trying to grow that community as well. So if you want to be part of that community, please let us know. Please reach out to me or through anyone in that team, and we're happy to have you on board. And let's get into the details. So now, what is the problem that we're trying to solve? The problem we're trying to solve is you may have an application that costs a huge amount of dollars for every user that's provisioned with a license. So again, everyone normally would like to have a software and application license in their behalf, right? So because even though if they're not using it or they're using it back adequately, they still want that license. And the problem is it's costing a lot of dollars with the business. And businesses want to save that, use that, be able to monitor how many people are actually using the app and basically reshuffle the license later on, such that people who are actually using the app get access to the app. People who are not using the app may not for now require access to the app until to a later time that requires them to have access again. Then, so normally what you'll see is that you're assigning, as I said, you're assigning users to those applications, but some people are not passively using it. So let's stop for a moment and basically review it, right? Like what can we do to make it, make the license that are being assigned to your users are actively being used. So this is where most customers I've talked to, they want to actually know which users are actively using the app and passively using the app. And given Okta is federated to that application, or is the single sign-on provider or the access management plane for that application, Okta has the information already that allows us to know how many times a user has tried to sign on to the app and whether it's successful or not. And we're just going to count all successful attempts, right? Because basically that's a good flag if the user is actually accessing the app or not. Then for users who are not who are passively accessing the app, maybe we want to trigger a campaign or an application review for those users and certify them through a manager or through a certain application owner that will actually go through the list that who are the people who are inactive or passive, then basically review if they really need access to those apps, such that license can be reshuffled or be reused to other people. And lastly, you can actually do cost savings, right? So cost savings from a company perspective, plus also cost savings from the people who are actually using the application heavily. And as you can see, that's how you could save money like a boss. So now how could Okta address this problem, right? So as you can see in Okta's realm, we actually have certain products that allows us to do this, a solution already available in hand, right? The first part is the workflows capability of Okta. So this is a low-code, no-code platform that allows anyone to build their own flows. So in this solution, which I'm going to present later on, is all built through custom flows in Okta workflows, wherein I didn't even have the code, right? I was just doing all the function and custom connectors and pre-built connectors that Okta workflows provide, because all the data is already available in Okta, as I said. Then once we're done building that repository of information, this is now how we want to trigger a campaign or certification and review, right? And this is powered by Okta's latest product called Okta Identity Governance. And this allows you to trigger access certification And also later on, optionally, if you really want to automatically revoke the license or the application access for the said inactive users in an automated fashion, we can actually chain that with Okta's LCM, or lifecycle management capability. And that will automate the removal of the user's access from that application, thus saving money to the customer and also making sure licenses are well spent. So let's focus on the solution itself. So the solution itself, again, we will use Okta as the primary identity cloud platform, wherein, as an example, target application that I'm going to use for license checks is Salesforce. So normally you will have Salesforce there, wherein you will create users in Salesforce and assign licenses to Salesforce. Over a period of time, users that might be that are heavily utilizing Salesforce will access Salesforce as regularly basis, but some users could be inactive, right? So here, after 30, 45, or 60 days, we might initiate a review, wherein what we're gonna do is through Okta workflows, we're gonna basically collect all the data from Okta system log, capture all the users who are assigned the Salesforce app, and also attest how many times they actually initiated a successful login to Salesforce. And that will allow us to build that repository containing users who actually, how many times they access Salesforce. And once we're able to build that information, we're going to assign those users into a table, custom table in workflows. And using threshold criteria, we will use that threshold criteria to filter which users are deemed as inactive. And once they're deemed as inactive, we will assign them to an Okta group, such that that group can be used later on for certification or access reviews using Okta's latest product called Okta Identity Governance, which is step 4. So we will now create a certification campaign using the Okta group that we recently created through the workflow, and from there we will basically attest all those users within that group, and basically have a manager or an application owner to review their access, such that access should be retained, revoked, or audited. Then optionally, you can chain that with Okta's lifecycle management to automate the removal part or removal part of the user's access to Salesforce. So that's, in a high level, is what's the solution overview, which I'm going to present. And cost savings. So now let's go with the actual demo time. So here I'm going to share my screen. So, but first things first, if you want to access the Okta Identity Governance API, please navigate to developer.okta.com/docs/API/IGA, and you'll see all the API information or collections that are available or exposed by Okta's Identity Governance, such that you can trigger those capabilities through an API fashion. So let's go first with my Okta admin console, right? So I'm going to focus on Salesforce itself. As you can see, Salesforce is an application wherein I have 5 users for now for demonstration. And all those 5 users are consuming some licenses in Salesforce. So what I'm going to do is basically, I created a flow called certified inactive users. As you can see, the flow is triggered by the parent flow, and there are 3 child flows or helper flows. The main important flow is the parent flow, wherein you're actually triggering the process here. Wherein the trigger process I've done is basically a custom API. You can change this to a delegated flow, or maybe change this to something else that will trigger the initiation process, right? Here I'm just doing custom API for demo purposes, and I'm passing the application name as the input, such that I know this is the application I want to review access of all users who are inactive. Part of the process, we're also creating tables. As you can see, there's 2 tables, where in this table will contain the user activity table will contain how many times a user has actually accessed the app, and also the inactivity threshold. So this is basically just you setting which users should be deemed as inactive if the threshold here is less than the value set here. So let's go back to the flow and let's inspect the flow, right? So as you can see here, I'm going to the parent flow, and the parent flow is actually just dictating that I have a custom API endpoint. Again, as I said, you can change this. Then given that this flow will run periodically, I will always clear the data from the table, such that you can make this flow generic to work with any application, and such that it will basically only collect and build the data at present. Then from here, what I'm doing is basically using the application name. I'm going to search for the application metadata within Okta using the Okta API. Then I'm creating a compose, right? And this is the part where I'm just using this to name the group that I'm going to create within Okta, which will be deemed as the group that I'm going to certify later on. Then we have the child flow, which we're going to go in later, how basically this is basically processing users who should be deemed as inactive, and also trying to call the Okta system log API, right, such that we are able to build that repository of information. Then as you can see here, I'm filtering the users that has been populated by the child flow in that table, searching which users are less than the threshold. So I'm getting the threshold number, getting all users who are less than the threshold count such that they will be marked as inactive. Then this is the child flow that's now assigning the users to that group that I recently created. And now I'm triggering the Okta Identity Governance API through a custom API card. And eventually, I'm looking forward that this card will now be available. Rather than calling a custom API card, this will be part of the Okta workflow connector card that's pre-built by Okta. So let's basically run this flow now to see it in action. So here I'm gonna just click test. As you can see, I want to certify Salesforce. I'm gonna click run tests. Then what it'll do is basically, as I said, get the metadata, application metadata from Salesforce, create the group that we will use for reviewal purposes later on. Then basically list the users who are assigned to the app from Salesforce, and pass that information to a child flow. And basically, this will now call the child flow, which I said earlier here, here. Then if we want to inspect the child flow, give me a second. The child flow is basically doing simple things wherein it's getting every record from the list of users who are assigned to that app, get the information from the user API of Okta to the Okta user read user card, then creating the row right within that table. Then lastly, searching the system logs for the user who was the actor, this application target that they tried to access, which is salesforce.com, the event that we want to filter. So this is basically access or SSO attempts that were successful. And lastly, again, sort them out by descending, right? And only maybe max 10, right? If the user's accessing the application more than 10 times, most likely they're active users. Then once that's done, it will go back to the parent flow again. And again, as you can see, this is the last card. We're in the child card, wherein I'm just using this child flow to add users to a group. So if we look back again, like how would that look like from a table standpoint? So here, if we go back to that table, user activity table, you will now see that for Salesforce, Jefferson, who is me, have accessed Salesforce 8 times already for a span of basically 90 days. Tony Stark only accessed it twice. Steve Rogers only once. Clark only 5. Bruce never, because Bruce never accessed the CRM because he's a rich guy, right? So how does that look like now in Okta admin console side of things? So if we go back to Okta admin console and search for directory, search for groups, you should be able to see there's a new group now called salesforce.com review. And as you can see, people who haven't made access attempts more than twice will be listed here. So if we go back to the table, right? So the users who haven't accessed twice or is more than twice is Tony, Steve, and Bruce. That's why you can see Tony, Steve, and Bruce are here. And lastly, given that that flow also created that workflow, so that certification campaign using Okta's latest product called Identity Governance, that will show up here, we'll be able to basically see the campaign that was created via that API. So if I click Access Certifications, And as you can see, given the certification campaign scheduled 3 days after, the campaign is now created through APIs. And if I want to basically run it now, I can run it, launch. Then given right now I made myself as the reviewer, I should be able to see that right now these are the 3 users we're trying to review, and the reviewer is me. Right? Then if I want to reassign the license, I can reassign it. Or if I just want to maintain the access, I can just click that button here that will say maintain. And if I don't want to maintain their access, I can revoke it. And as I said, optionally, you can connect Okta's identity governance capability directly with Okta's lifecycle management capability to automate the user removal with Salesforce. And that will automate that operation, reducing man hours, costs, efficient, and also creating cost savings. So that's how this solution addresses the problem of how you can certify users who are inactive on a certain application. So I hope you're able to find this session useful. And if you need additional info, you can always go to imsc.blog, as I said, wherein you'll be able to see again the article I created, and this will take you through like the problem statement, the solution. And if you need access to that actual workflow, please reach out to me, jefferson.how@okta.com, or you can reach out to any of my teammates. Thank you.